So here we are, we're a matter of days away before we get to the start of all of the European season, where Sorare 26 will be in full effect. We've had early access, we've had double up promotions, we've had hot streak throwback and double up promotions, and for the beginning of the season, Sorare have made the hot streak multiplier 5 times even bigger on a one-shot basis. That means you get one chance to get the hot streak running on a 5 times multiplier of a payout. Last week we did our budget limited team for the Premier League, which I think went really well. I really liked the build that we've done here. We also got some great insight and interactions from you guys in the comment section. Let me know what you think I did well on, and offering some tips and suggestions, which I have tried to build into the strategy, and we'll talk more about that later on. But now that we've had Liga, the Bundesliga is about to be released, and obviously we've had La Liga, I couldn't help myself. I got itchy feet. You can maybe tell by the top I'm wearing today. I had to get involved in some La Liga action. And the reason I wanted to do a La Liga limited hot streak budget video lineup strategy for me and for you guys to, cross our fingers with and hopefully enjoy, is because I think out of all of the leagues that have the hot streak multiplier available, La Liga is going to be the toughest. It is going to be the hardest, whilst also being the easiest. What do I mean by that? We'll talk about that in the video. At any point, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. If you are brand new to Sorare and you've not opened up your account yet, all the beginner tutorials you'll need to get yourself up to speed and up and running are linked in the description of the video, as well as an exclusive link that will get you $150, pounds, euros, whatever your currency is, of market credit to help you go out and build your squad. The amount of credit you get is directly linked to the first purchase you make on site, so please make sure to read the T's and C's. By clicking on that link, you directly support me and all the content here at the channel. So if you get stuck, or if you've got any questions, DM me on Twitter, drop a comment down below in the video, whatever it is, you can reach me and I'll do my best, or I will come back and help you out. But yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it, because I think the first thing we want to remind ourselves on is, 5 times multiplier. What does that really mean? So in the 5-a-side fantasy football mode, where you need to buy in-season cards, you need 4 of them in your 5-a-side team. You're allowed 1 card that can be from any season in any year gone by. You need to hit a set points target, and Sorare will guarantee you a cash payout regardless of where you finish on the leaderboard. Now, bigger scores will get you higher in the leaderboard. You can win more than just the hot streak by doing this, of course, as well. But Sorare scouts and managers around the world who have been around the block once or twice like building their teams, having a points target in mind. It's something tangible and something quite attainable, and on a budget, depending on what your targets are, can be, there's no other way of saying it, I guess, attainable. I'll just say it again. And this is the way it sits for La Liga and for the Premier League and for everything else. Now, like I mentioned in the intro, this is going to be the hardest league to do this in for me, as well as being the easiest. Now, what do I mean by that? I think if you were to look at trying to get 460 points at limited, at rare, at the very top, we're talking about getting to 510 points, which, by the way the multipliers go, it's essentially the same type of target. La Liga just does not have enough big power scorers in the division as a whole to really think you could go all 5 streaks across the way, unless you're to pick up Real Madrid and Barcelona players similar to PSG in France and maybe Bayern Munich in Germany. You really do have a credible chance of going all the way if you're to buy one of the premium teams, one of the big dogs in the division. But when I look at, France and the Bundesliga and the Premier League, I think on a budget, or going for an alternative strategy, an alternative squad or stack or whatever you want to think of it as, you could do quite well. You could go quite far if you're quite cute on a budget. Whereas with La Liga, I do think it is the hardest one of the lot to do that alternate angle and go all the way and hit 5 streaks. Now, with the Premier League squad and strategy that we've ran on the channel, it is our goal, it is our ambition, and we have laid out the strategy to go after the full 5 run of the streaks. And if you missed that video, again, I'll link it at the end of this one, but feel free to check it out on the channel. But for La Liga on a budget, I'm taking this from a totally different approach, because quite sincerely, at limited level, if you're not going to be getting Barca and Real Madrid smash type players, getting above the 400 points mark is going to be very, very hard. It's not going to be impossible, of course, but there's a lot of force majeure, there's a lot of acts of God that probably need to come into the fold, and you need to have tippy-top selection choices for captain as well as your squad to make this happen. For the budget strategy that I'm going to be running in La Liga, I'm taking this from the more realistic approach of let's just set out our stall to spend as little as possible to get as far along the streak as possible. And I think you'll see how we've kind of ID'd players, and we'll go through the strategy of the build and what we've got, and I need a little bit of interaction from you guys on what you would do. But I'm only looking at the first 2 streaks here. I'm only looking at the first 2 match days for La Liga, because I do think with picking out the fixtures and trying to iron into some particularly strong players, these 2 targets on a budget are rather achievable, and the cheaper we can make the squad, the bigger the ROI, the bigger the return that we get. Of course, if we can get to streak 3, because we will have won some money along the way, similar to the Premier League strategy, maybe we can reinforce to make sure we get spot number 3 hit, because that would be an absolute jackpot situation considering how little a lot of La Liga players can be found on the market. So the first place I started is quite simply, I'm only looking at the first 2 match days in La Liga. At point of recording this coming weekend, we have match day 1 or round 1, where we've got some fixtures that look quite open, where you could get a really strong home victory, or you've got a bigger team versus a minnow, that sort of thing. Barcelona are away to Mallorca, which should be very good for Barcelona, but Mallorca away is much tougher than Mallorca at home, having to go to the island it is. They've got a very good home record in the main, but all the same, very good looking fixture there for Barcelona. I think Atletico and Real Madrid again start game week 1 with very good fixtures and make them quite credible. But the sort of teams that catch my eye here is Betis away to Elche. Betis were a very successful stack last year and have recruited very, very well in the window. And my eyes are also being drawn to Girona at home to Rayo Vallecano. Now, Girona, I've followed them a lot over the last couple of years, but it's not a great game. But if they were to do well at home to Valle in the first game of the season, is a good spot. And then Villarreal versus Santi Carzola's newly promoted Real Oviedo, the very first time they've been in La Liga in a generation, essentially. It looks like a very good game. And then across the rest of match day 1, Vigo against Getafe, a bit of a Quinny derby. It could go either way in terms of points scoring. The result probably favours Vigo, but in terms of SO5 points, whatever. Alaves Levante could be quite an open game. Good defensive points could be there. Bilbao at home to Sevilla. Sevilla have been very meh and get a very weak squad, for the last year and a half or so. So they could be quite a false kind of bigger team or whatever in the fixture list. So I wouldn't be ruling out Atletico Bilbao in that type of fixture. And look at match day 2. Betis at home to Alaves should be a pretty good game for them. Celta Vigo, they had Getafe, they then have Mallorca away, so whatever. But Atletico Madrid, second game at home to Elche, Barcelona second game away to Levante, and Real Madrid second game away to Oviedo. Like I mentioned, the power players, the big teams, the big stacks, there's a degree of, I don't want to say certainty, but the fixtures really do favour them, don't they? Sevilla Getafe is a bit of nothing really, isn't it? But Bilbao at home again to Rayo Vallecano could be a really nice one. And then we've got Villarreal Girona. I think Villarreal are, Marcelino, the manager, the squad that they've built, the transfers they've made, I really like where Villarreal are sitting at the moment. And then if we were to have just a wee glance into match day 3 to see what's kind of going on with some of these teams that we've seen already having kind of good fixtures already. Betis play Bilbao, Villarreal, Celta Vigo, Girona, Sevilla. I don't know how we feel about that. Atletico Madrid, again, a great fixture. Valencia, Getafe, again, I'm not too sure how I sit on that. Real Madrid at home to Mallorca, Barca away to Valle. Again, very good fixtures. So for the first 3 weeks, the first 3 match days, we also have Betis and Celta Vigo coming in here because they've got rearranged games down to European commitments or whatever. If you had a stack of one of them, again, because they're facing off against each other, I'm not too sure either one of them looks particularly exciting for that match day. But over the first 3 match days here, I think there's enough of the non-big 3 teams that have got a couple of good bits and bobs going around these fixtures, whether they be at home or away. There could be some good defensive performances, there could be some goals scored, that sort of thing. So after I did all that, I sat on the market for about a day and a half, and Sorare were running up a double up promotion where every card that you bought from auction and or instant buy guaranteed you a bit of essence, and you had the chance to maybe pull another card. And some of the cards that people were pulling from this on the timeline was incredible. Someone picked up Edu Esposito from Espanyol, and they also got Lamine Yamal, for example. So there was a nice little bit of that on the timeline this weekend. But in the main, overall, the key players on every club that you expect respect to, you know, especially the bigger clubs, the price point of these guys really starts at £30 and was going up from there. But I was, you know, the longer things were going on with the teams that I'd identified, I was looking at more and more of the players that, from watching a lot of La Liga, I know are good players. I know that will play, maybe they take set pieces, this type of thing. We're not that cheap, not that expensive. They were actually rather cheap, and they were kind of topping out at the £15-18 mark. And if you were really clever, because the velocity of auctions that came out, and depending on when you're watching this is something to maybe watch out for Bundesliga, because those auctions at point of recording are not out yet, but they were coming thick and fast. As soon as one auction closed for, you know, any given player, the next card was then released an hour later. So it was a really high velocity on the market, which just meant if you had a bit of a wallet and you were trying to get these guys, you could do your max bid and run the cycle a few times and try and pick up the actual individual players you were after. So once I kind of realised, okay, there's a bunch of players here around the £10 mark, maybe 15 at a push, that are in good teams, that are good players, that maybe take set pieces, that maybe have some pretty good fixtures. I then went onto the scout page and I built myself a new little watch list. So last week we made a little list of like 9 players, a budget Premier League limited squad, and this time around I made a little budget La Liga limited little watch list. Now this is good for just kind of comparing the players. It's a nice little graphic and you can kind of weigh up the pros and cons, the different positions you're eyeing up and seeing, is this going to be a double midfield build? Are we going to end up with too many forwards? Do we need a defender? That kind of thing. Once you've built this watch list, which you just need to hit the scout tab, go onto my watch list and create the watch list, you can then just add players to it very easily. But the advantage to doing that is when you go onto the market, you have the ability to then use that as your filter. So I just click on Budget La Liga Limited and I'm now watching all of these auctions for the players I've ID'd roll through. And I'm doing my best to get my max bid in really quickly, really sharp, and watch for some of these auctions kind of closing in. And you can see already from the players that are on screen and on the watch list, a bunch of the players that I ID'd. Now, Sorare scouts and managers that have been on the channel for a little while will know there is some tropes, some recurring characters from La Liga. I always recommend these budget builds, whether for myself or for any of you guys that are going into Liga. And when it came to a striker, there was only one choice for me when I seen some of the pre-season reports coming out from some of our Spanish sources that we like to use here on the channel, and from Football Fantasy, one of the big fantasy sites for Spanish football for La Liga. They are talking about how Jerry Moreno has regained his best form and he's alleviated his injury concerns and he's looking to be back to his best. And because La Liga isn't a really super high scoring league, I am looking for a striker that is a main man in a team. And ideally, if there's somebody like Jerry Moreno, they also take some penalties, or they also take the penalties, they also take some of those direct free kicks from in and around the box. A guy that can get an assist, a guy that can score a goal. And if he's fit and available and he's going to play those first couple of matches, Jerry Moreno is exactly the sort of player I want to pick up. So he was one of the first players I went and got, and this will be a single striker option. He is still clicking in around the £10 mark, which for a fit and available Jerry Moreno, for me, is an absolute no-brainer. It's an absolute bargain. I got him for £12.24. I think there might have been some market credits on this, but no, there wasn't. Actually, I paid the full amount for that. So in the kind of heat of the auctions, I maybe paid a little bit more than what you can get him for now that the double up promotion is finished. This is a striker that, you know, I know in those first couple of games, at home to Oviedo, at home to Girona, and then away to Celta Vigo, he can score 3 goals in 3 games. I don't think it would be that much of a shock. And he's not just a goal scorer, Jerry Moreno. He's a guy that also is on the ball. He's a playmaking attacker as well. Let's see how far the scoring history goes for him. But when he is fully fit and available, 1 decisive 70, 1 decisive 80, 2 decisives 100. He has got big scores in his locker. And Villarreal have got a really good outfit going for them right now. And because really in La Liga, to be honest with you, midfielders and forwards are, the whole team is really hard to build in La Liga, to be honest with you, because there's not too many super smashers. The style of play, the flow of the game, the tempo of the game isn't always terribly conducive to SO5, but because Villarreal, I believe in their squad, I really like their fixtures, it made it quite easy to get a defensive stalwart in from their team in the form of Rafa Marin. Rafa Marin is just transferred in from Napoli, a very well regarded Spanish youth international, very good ball playing left-sided centre-back that I think at Villarreal, particularly at home to Oviedo, and probably at home at Girona, is going to be on the ball a fair bit. Will he get decisive action or not? Probably not. But this is a guy I'm hoping that can trap into the 50s as a centre-back across those games regularly enough. And if he can have a better game like he did here against Atletico Madrid, a dominant game against Oviedo, he definitely can get those nice high AA base scores from passing as well as defensive output. And Rafa Marin, I think, was one of the cheapest players we picked up. We got him for £9.68. Again, round about the same realm as what he's going for at the moment, but you'll probably be able to get him a little bit cheaper. Now, I was really tempted at this point to go and get Dani Parejo, who is one of the GOATs on Sorare, 36, 37-year-old, is a key playmaker, a big set-piece taker for Villarreal. Although as time has went on, he has lost a lot of set-piece duties to some of the other players in the team, and the way their midfield is built, he's not really a 90-minute player anymore. And, you know, I was very tempted on Parejo, but when I had a look across the rest of these fixtures, I thought, you know, is there a midfielder in here that I could go and pick up that takes a lot of set pieces, if not all of them, and is on a team that could do better than last year or has some pretty decent fixtures? And I was torn. There was one player that I was very close to getting that wasn't actually on that list, so I've just added him on, and that is Mauro Arambari, who plays for Getafe. And as you can see from his set piece and defensive output, he's got a very nice floor overall. He's quite good for that 52 mark, 48 mark, and if he can get decisive, you know, even better for him. And his limited in seasons are like super cheap because Getafe's fixtures are not particularly favourable. They're not really a team that score more than 2 goals on average very often, if ever. And again, he's like a fiver. So I was quite tempted by him. But I thought, you know, it's not really quite as punchy as the midfielder that I think I'm going to need for this. And one player that had a good season, kind of fell off last year, but I believe with the manager they currently have and with some of the transfer business they've done, could be said to have one of his biggest seasons ever in La Liga, is Pepelu of Valencia. This is a guy they spent a lot of money on. They gave a massive contract to when they signed him from local city rivals Levante a year or two ago. And now that he's bedded in, the midfield has kind of moved about a little bit. The current manager, because they've changed manager quite a bit since he's came in, is settled, and you can see the way pre-season's going. It feels like Pepelu is going to be starting, and even like you can see his scoring record last year when he wasn't starting, he's got really strong AA game in him. There's no two ways about it. If he can become a starter, if he can get himself in amongst some decisives, Pepelu is a player that, look how much he's going for now, £6-7. What did I get him for? £9. I think he is fantastic bang for buck. The only thing with Pepelu is the fixtures are not super amazing. The first game they're at home at Sociedad. Anyone who's been on this channel will know that Sociedad are big heartbreakers. They really are good at letting you down. So I don't really mind that as a game, although it's not an easy one on paper. The second game away to Osasuna, I think could be a very good Pepelu match. And in that third game, at home at Getafe, that could be a really good one for a guy like Pepelu. So we've kind of got one eye on all 3 fixtures with a player like him. Should play all the time by all accounts. And again, a guy that takes set pieces. Don't know about penalties, that's kind of undetermined at this point. But with Rafa Marin, that solid centre-back that should be giving us that kind of rough 50 score. Jerry Moreno, who can bring in a 70 plus with a decisive. And then Pepelu, who with one decisive could bring in a 70 or an 80. There's a nice spine in the team. But at this point, I started to get greedy, I think. Or, I don't know if greedy is the word, but I'm thinking, I've got Jerry Moreno, he takes some penalties. I've got Pepelu, who should be taking all the set pieces. Is there another set piece taker in and around the league that is in this kind of £10 budget range that I can pick up to add into my squad? And as I'm looking across all the teams and the games and everything else, there was a few options. I already mentioned Arambari. I was very close to picking up Saganikov from Girona. He just kind of went above price for me. He was kind of pushing the £15, £19 mark a little bit more often. I do think he is a great get, but if that is within your budget, good fixtures, good enough fixtures for Girona. Saganikov does take all the attacking kind of set pieces as well, and if he can get a decisive, he's a great forward card to have. But looking at looking at the games, I really liked Celta Vigo. We really like Betis. There was a few of these other teams that hadn't bought a card in yet, but I was looking at them and going, okay, could we bring in a Rodrigo Riquelme, Saganikov, Arambari, I beg your pardon. There's a few of these players I was looking at, but the one that really jumped off the page as being in the price budget and having pretty good looking fixtures was Oscar Mingueza. Oscar Mingueza we managed to pick up for about £8 right as the double up offer ended. So for the first 3 cards I also got an extra 100 essence. So I picked up 300 essence of pure La Liga. So that means for the season ticket holders here on the channel who I give all my limiteds away to, the next craft we're going to do is going to be for La Liga, and that should be pretty sweet. We should get a really nice card out out of that. But this is a card that, again, is shown in La Liga last season. A very good full-back kind of score. Can get decisives. He does take lots of set pieces. Yes, he can kill a team. I think every full-back can do that. But the fixtures are there. It's early in the season. Celta Vigo will be feeling good that they're in Europe this year. And I like some of their transfer business. And I thought for that price, Oscar Mingueza just makes far too much sense. So all of that leaves me with this squad here. Now, we don't have a goalkeeper yet, and if you're watching this point in the video, thank you very much for staying on for this long, because I also have a classic Iago Aspas, and I'm going to give that away to one of you guys in the comment section of this video. What I want to know from you guys right now is if you had this squad here, what classic La Liga goalkeeper would you bring in? Because from where I'm sitting right now, the remaining budget I've got for this is £5.30. I think this is a very, very tough decision to make. I really do like Severa. I think he's been a very good goalkeeper, scores exceptionally well. With the clean sheet, he's a top performer. Without the clean sheet, he can just about get you there. Alaves, I've got tough games without playing, super, like the worst fixture list possible. David Soria is a tried and tested hero on the channel as well, but again, maybe his scoring profile with Getafe at times is a bit counterproductive. It might hold us back a little bit. I really like Sergio Herrera of Osasuna, but again, has very tough fixtures, so it's hard to really back him with some proper confidence. Although when I'm looking at this, I might actually go for Sergio Herrera. It's a guy I've been a big fan of, and I've never really owned his card before. Nyland should play for Sevilla, but again, I'm just not too willing to go with him. And one player that is really tempting me is Dimitrovic for Espanyol, who they do have tough games. Atletico Madrid and Sociedad, but this guy makes lots of saves, and this is a guy that if you were to remove the negative decisives last year, he would have had a proper difference in performance last year. You can now see it. It's hard to compare last season's matrix and this season's matrix or whatever, but he's a really good looking goalkeeper. Espanyol were very convincing defensively last year. We've also got guys like Dituro, Moldovan, who are playing for promoted teams that will play but are going to be up against it for the most part. And in the Betis goalkeeper situation, Pau Lopez and Valle, Betis in a really good position. Both of these keepers are in this price range because nobody really knows who's going to start the season. And right down at the bottom here, there's no one really that's in contention, is there? Now, there is also Paulo Gazzaniga, who I never managed to pick up and is a player that I kind of outright refused to pick up because I just think he's a terrible goalkeeper. But he does have some scoring credentials to him. There's just no getting away from it. So I'm between a rock and a hard place here. None of these goalkeepers jump out like this is the guy to pick. Osasuna play Real Madrid, then Valencia, then Espanyol, which isn't that bad, is it, in the first 3 games? The Alaves keeper opens his campaign at Levante, then plays Betis, and in the 3rd game plays Atletico Madrid. Soria opens the season up playing Celta Vigo, which, I think that could be a good game for Getafe, don't get me wrong. But away to Sevilla right after that, and then away to Valencia. It just doesn't feel like a good run of games. And for Dimitrovic, we've seen he's obviously playing Atletico Madrid and Real Sociedad. But that 3rd game is at home to Osasuna, so I don't know, if we could be agile with the goalkeepers, I wouldn't mind maybe picking one up and rotating them around, selling them and trading them around the market between match days. But it does feel like a lot of heavy lifting for maybe not that much upside. Now, Osasuna, opening game of the season, are away to Real Madrid, but I'm getting a little bit more tempted to go Osasuna because the games after that, at home at Valencia don't score that much. I can't see them being free scoring this season. And in Espanyol in that 3rd game, if we do get that far on the streak, I think Sergio Herrera could be the guy because, again, high value clean sheets are not unimaginable. Osasuna are a really rigid team and they've been very good defensively. But even if they are going to play and, not get the clean sheet, this is a win against Girona. Can we find a loss where they've conceded a few goals, perhaps? As a wee example of what we could hope for out of this guy. Against Real Madrid, a 1-1 draw. This is the sort of thing I can maybe cross my fingers and hope for. In this game, he was against Mbappe and Vinny, and all the players are here, even Jude, who won't be fit and available. Yeah, maybe the full team isn't in full strength, but yeah, I think I'm going to go for Sergio Herrera. Let me know in the comment section for the competition as well, of course. Who would you go for out of the bad batch that we've got here? My heart is pulling on, my heartstrings are getting pulled here by Soria because Soria just is our guy. And Getafe playing Valencia, Sevilla, Celta Vigo. Oh, maybe I do. I think I might go Soria, but I'm really torn. It's between Soria or Sergio Herrera for me. I think they're the two guys. Soria's fixtures are a little bit better. I think I'm going to go with that because he is a little bit cheaper as well, so it's a good budget pick. and I'm just going to push the button on it. So David Soria is back in the club. We've always got David Soria in the club at some point, so it does feel a little bit of football romance has been into this. Let me know who you would have picked out of this bunch for the giveaway, like I've already mentioned. Because thanks to you guys on the last Premier League Road to Glory budget limited thing that we did, you were chatting about how Jake O'Brien, you're like, Quinny, it might not be that safe if Everton sign a right back or they do this or they do that. You might want to look at Sunderland. A lot of people were talking about Sunderland having quite soft fixtures. And I had to look into all that and I ended up picking up a Reinildo. Now, I'm going to start with Jake O'Brien for match day 1, but from that point onward, I'm very much open and I might just move into Reinildo to play defence for the remainder of the hot streak run that we've got there. So thanks very much, guys, for the insight and the interactions on the last video. I very much look forward to catching them on this one. We've got our Premier League team locked and loaded ahead of the weekend. And look at this, by the way, we are picking up the multi-club bonus and the cap bonus for this on a budget. So an extra little 6% of a help out of Sorare here for the points that we're going to get by mixing it up and having some differential players. I would go Captain Jerry Moreno on this one. And now we've got 2 budget limited squads built. This team cost half of what the Premier League one cost. It's maybe not quite got the same uplift. We've not got any Marmouche level players or anything like that. Maybe Pepelu's Elliot Anderson level. But this one isn't aiming to go for the full 5 streak. You know, from this, we're hoping just to hit 360 points this weekend. Next weekend, 380, which isn't much of a difference. Maybe with the $25 we pick up, we might reinforce the strategy if we feel that we need to or we can. Before then, the last kind of one-shot effort is that match day 3. Could we smash something like 400 points? And I dare say, between the hot streak money, if we do win it across that time here, we would be up. You know, the team has cost like 50 quid. And if we did hit both these streaks, it will be paid for and they'll probably be in a little bit of profit. But then if we could get to that 4th streak, jackpot time. I think we're looking good. I think we're feeling good coming into these limited one-shot teams. I'm really happy with what we've managed to do on the budget we've had. And we've had a lot of people being really interested and excited for the upcoming season for the free-to-play mode. Now, I've been opening up 3 packets every day like a madman. And I think, you know, there'll be some more packs between now and... Oh, that was another thing I wanted to squeeze into this video because I was opening up packs and being hyperactive on it, Sorare actually gifted us 5 gems, which means we can actually buy an elite player pack. Now, I want to do this out of the Premier League rather than La Liga or France because we've got a lot of Premier League stuff there. So let's open up this pack with the 5 gems that Sorare gifted us, and we've already got some limited XP out of some of the missions that we've done. And if we collect more and more collections, we're going to get some market credits from Sorare from doing so. Just rip this packet open. Much better animation on the gems one than on the free daily pack. John Paul Van Hecke, like that. So we also picked up a Yakuba Minty, Milos Kerkez, Jared Bowen, John Paul Van Hecke and Dominic Soboslai. Nice little additions to the roster. For the common mode, I've got a nice kind of array selection here. I'm quite happy to run with Jordan Pickford. The Van Hecke thing, I think I've seen him linked to some transfers. I don't know how excited I would be to use that. We could maybe slide the limited Reinildo in here. I don't think that gets an added bonus, sadly. But having a look at the commons we've got thus far, I'm not sure there's anyone that really jumps out. Maybe Murillo at home at Brentford. That could be really good if we know he's going to play. Morato the same. But yeah, let's put Murillo in. I think he's very high calibre, very well thought of. We've got ourselves a common Phil Foden. 2 Jared Bowens. Maybe we'll scrap one of them. That'll be quite cool. Dwight McNeil taking on Leeds. That could be cheat code. And then it's quite a tough decision, I think, between Bowen, Bruno Guimaraes and James Ward-Prowse. There's some other players here that look good, could be handy. John McGinns and whatever, but I'm not hyped on picking them. I think I would go Bowen, would go double forward. It's between Bowen and Foden for the captaincy, I think, but I'll go Foden just because it's Man City first game of the season. You expect him to put a show on. So for the Road to Glory stuff that we're doing here on the channel on a budget, the free-to-play Premier League team looks really solid. We've not really done free-to-play with any of the other competitions yet to any great extent. Really like the Premier League team, not really too much of a reason to play about with that between now and the deadline. And for La Liga, again, I'm very happy with the team we've managed to build here on a budget. Feel free to let me know how you think I'm going to do in La Liga. Will we hit the first 2 streaks, which is only our goal? And again, if you missed the Premier League video, feel free to check that out. It'll be on screen now, as well as something else that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. If you haven't done so already, please do hit the like button, subscribe for more content like this. Jump into the comment sections, of course, for the giveaway. Leave me your thoughts and feelings and everything else. Stay out of trouble, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.